So let's talk about Joe Kent. You don't know who Joe Kent is? Neither did I, so you don't have to feel so bad. I didn't know who he was just 5 minutes ago, but suddenly he's a household name. Why do you think that is? Why do you think a guy comes out of the shadows and overnight suddenly becomes a celebrity? Let me explain to you how it works. Joe Kent, up until 5 minutes ago, was part of the Trump administration. He was a counterterrorism expert working for Trump. You know, and I know that there is a force that has come out of the woodworking in a huge way since the Gaza war, that it is clear as day that the sworn enemies of the nation of Israel, namely the Islamist states like Qatar, have come out with all of this money that they get from the ground. They don't have to work for it, literally just pumps out of the ground and into their bank accounts. They're taking that very same money and are spending it to buy the morality of people who historically had clarity. Today, moral clarity doesn't exist. The Piers Morgans of the world, the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, the Megyn Kellys, whatever is going to make them a few extra bucks, whatever is going to make them the number one show or the number one podcast in the world, that's all they care about. What's going to do it better than money? And the answer is not much. And so now we could take that same philosophy, that same approach, and understand that we can apply it to our friend Joe Kent, the nobody from yesterday, who has suddenly been told that, hey, Joe, how about taking that $200,000 salary, coming out of the shadows and into the limelight? We're going to take that salary and we're going to turn it into $2 million. What's $2 million for the guys in Qatar? It's a drop in the bucket. But for Joe Kent, hey, that's 10 times his salary overnight. Little Johnny would probably do very well with that, with his education. Joe Kent's wife, I'm sure, will be very pleased to know that her husband is now a celebrity and they're making all kinds of money and rubbing elbows with real big time influencers. Now, I'm never going to be able to prove that. Nobody ever will until you get to see the bank statements. But the reality is you just have to use your logic. The whole world has been talking about Iran for decades, and everybody's been crystal clear on what they're working towards because Iran has been saying it. They've been screaming their intentions from the top of the mountains for generations. It's no mystery. They've got intel coming out of their ears. If you listen to the right people, then you will see this clear as day. It's very obvious that people like Joe Kent of the world and these other influencers, these other people who became overnight sensations. Yesterday, they were lurking in the background, in the shadows. Nobody knew them. And today, they're household names. Today, they're all over the internet. Mark my words. Soon you're going to see him on Piers Morgan. Then he's going to be on Tucker Carlson. Then he's going to be on Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly. And he may even, depending on how good he is, get his own show, my friends. That's what moral bankruptcy buys you by the Islamist nations. But you don't need to see the bank statements. You just have to have your own moral clarity.